Thank you.
Someone texted me,
Yeah, that's a good
Vegas is old. Yeah. I think it's been harder to get yesterday. Yes.
Here's what I would.
Yeah, that's why they lived out of the snow last night. No, but I said that you get two buckets. And one that was ice cream. And it's like.
Yeah, are you here with an organization or like an official or? Nice, nice.
Yes,
You remember the
but
house is your
the
first.
thing is,
Yeah.
You're working on that.
Yeah. I mean, I work at DYCD, so this was like, Andrew and I were doing because we're rental affairs. So we're like looking for people. Luckily, we've been sort of in that way, and now we're changing. We're gonna be more about the best emotion to be honest. Like anything, like I put that one in. I was at the last one. Before that. Nobody was here in person. Yeah. Where we have heard, I can't remember, it was like someone who was expecting to see a person, or like people like make sure that and then she like. Oh, I could have done. Do you work in person or you work remotely? Okay. Yeah, nice, nice.
That would have been coming out of love,
Right, they closed the Chambers Street thing and then second one in front of the weather and.
Yeah, that for me was like, I'm glad I just. We went to the meeting in the Bronx.
Wait, that counts.
No, it's a
Well, that's on the way down.
No, they have it in the front.
My umbrella broke. And it was a good one.
No, we usually use the Chinese. Only thing besides onboarding and taking office rooms, instead of like not the pet.
On the street, getting those $5 rooms.
I heard you guys have a lot of events.
I always lose good ones. The drunken one, never look at that.
I did just find. And also I know it's $100 on the thing,
but you know what you see, quality, like in those situations, yes.
I didn't even get the high fives.
It's not water repellent, it's like water.
Remember that old school, raised jack, I go down here to the lake.
Are you like a real New Yorker?
Yes.
So that
And I put it in Macy's like 10 years ago, to show you.
Yeah, really flushing, so. Oh, they're not too far. Not too far.
Funny there.
Well, I was in San Francisco in a hotel there. Yep. Super early. And I'm not even flushing downtown.
That's San Diego, I love San Diego, I've been there.
I told the whole group, I'm not going outside. So,
You don't realize how huge California is.
take the road. But I'm not going every day. You know, the road, how much is it?
It's like driving from here to Florida.
I went every day.
He tells me that I have to smile when I whatever, and they're like, you have to stop blowing people off. Well, like, there's like people who come up to me and like, is there a right, exactly. Right, right.
I know you missed last time with Josh.
Wow, you're so well. I know. I feel like it's coming in wow, congratulations.
The comptroller's office.
Oh, nice. I mean, you know, I look. This is Sarah Parks.
Pleasure to meet you. Josh. Josh.
I know, yeah.
You have one of these things that just happen.
Oh, I'm trying to get it
Do I have
together.
to-
I told Brad, so I was like, I gotta step it up to the plate.
Okay, we're gonna get started.
What's nice about it is, it goes right into your phone. and you're
I
on-
think we're almost at quorum.
I just see how it works, it's quite different.
Oh, you do it.
Well, I like to see the best. My meeting with Brad tomorrow, so I had an extra thing on our agenda.
Hello? It's 6:18. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to be leading the meeting today as both my first and second chair people can't be here. So we are going to start with the roll call, and I will turn it over to Grace to do the roll call. Yes, you want the microphone too.
Good evening. Okay, so, Honorable Adrian Adams. Oh. Oh, okay. Okay, Grace Lovaglio, Recording Secretary for the DYCD CAB. So Honorable Adrian Adams, representatives, Tyrell Hankerson, Lynette Shelbourne Barfield. Oh, hello. Honorable Eric Adams, Rep. Valerie Vasquez. No. Honorable Jeffrey Aubrey. Hello? Louise?
Yeah.
Honorable Brian Cunningham, Rep. Sidney Redwick, and Raul Rothblatt. Yesenia Cardona.
Here.
Okay. Honorable Vito J. Bosella, Nicholas Thompson. I'm sorry? Is, okay. Okay. Honorable Vanessa L. Gibson, Nelson Palacios, Angel Gaud Jr., Rhonda F. Joseph, parliamentarian. No, it says Honorable Brad Lander, Joshua Pacheco. Honorable Mark Levine, Marielle Ali. Okay, I'm here. Grace Lovaglio, present. Let's see. Paul Mai.
Present.
Honorable Christopher Marte, Christopher Packho.
Right here.
Gideon Dunkley from Morris Heights Health Center. Oh, not sure. Mary Moss.
Here, present.
Joseph Pierre from Neighborhood Housing Services of Staten Island. Oh? Hello?
We see you.
Hello?
We see you.
So, are they
Can you
here?
hear me? Yes. Yes.
Can you hear us? No, she can't hear, that's why she keeps saying hello. Tech support. So Joseph Pierre is not here. Oh, he is here, okay. Clivis Pena. No. Okay. Deleta Pena? No. Honorable Roxanne J. Persaud, Alex Cuevas. Okay. Honorable Antonio Reynoso, Rep is Donovan Swanson.
Here.
Honorable Donovan Richards, Rep is Susan Tannenbaum, your share, okay, Susan's here. And, okay. Jackie Rowe Adams.
Hi.
She's here?
Yes,
Okay.
I am.
Okay.
Hi.
Honorable Althea Stevens, Rep Carolyn Martinez, Tyreek Israel, and Lamont Carolina. Anybody? Christopher Toomer. Honorable Sandra Ung, Representative Shane Miller or Sheen Wu. Ariel's here. Nora Moran from the United Neighborhood Houses.
Here.
Janet Blows. Samantha Moy, okay, here, United Parcel, UPS. Honorable Jumani Williams, Rep Elizabeth Kennedy. Oh, sorry. That's it? That's it? Good? Looks like 1, 2, 3.
Yes, that deserves a round of applause. Now we can actually do stuff at this meeting. Okay, I guess Lamont Carolina is not here, so we'll skip that. So now we're gonna move on to accepting the minutes for the meeting from January 25th. Can I have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Second?
Dave, Lauren Wilson.
The first on Swanson.
Great, thank you. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to, oh. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There being none, so moved. Okay, now I will turn it over to Artis to do the financial program quarterly report. Thank you.
the CAP meeting. But I also wanted to give you an update on the single audit. Can you, yep? Awesome. So the city fiscal year 2023 single audit, which is an audit that's required by the federal government for all entities that receive federal funds. And DYCD has, in city fiscal year 23, we had it's a unique year because we had quite a lot of stimulus funding because of the pandemic that the funding ended for DYCD in 2023. But overall, DYCD received about $160 million of federal funding. And generally, if an agency receives at least $35 million in federal funding, you have to do a single audit. And the audit is done for the city as a whole, not DYCD. This year, or city fiscal year 23, two funding sources were audited. The stimulus funding, in 2023, we had $24 million of that. And we also get a very, very small slice of the Community Development Block Grant, which comes through the federal HUD unit. We get just over $7 million. But that HUD grant is audited as an intent for the entire agency, city, which is in the billions of dollars. But anyway, we have a very small slice of that, but we did get sampled, even though we have such a small slice. Needless to say, the audit was completed. It has to be done by March 31st of every year. The report was done, it was sent off to the board. I'm not sure if you got it in your package because the package might have been sent out before we received the single audit letter. But the good news is that the city of New York did not receive any findings for that audit. Our internal controls were checked. They did both a programmatic audit and a fiscal audit, and the city in 2023 had no findings on a single audit. So that's one of the things I have to update as part of updating the CAB board, because CSBG requirements say that we have to inform the board of any audits that we have. That's the first notice that I wanted to talk about. The last time we met, I had also talked about the fact that DYCD was changing its management systems. We were currently using a system called HHS, I actually don't know what HHS stands for, my apologies. You might know, since you're at the comptroller's office. Yes, exactly, thank you. Thank you. DYCD was the last agency to be migrated within the new system, which is called Passport. We've been fighting this for a long time because DYCD, 90% of the funds that DYCD receive, we then award to CBOs. So our contracting budget is much larger than most city agencies. Other city agencies do their own work, they keep the money in-house, they perform the services. DYCD does not do that. And so we've been fighting going into Passport because we've been hearing a lot of problems with it. Anyway, starting March 15th, DYCD's migration started, meaning our data was being migrated from HHS system into the new system Passport. To date, we have not resumed paying our providers because we're still reconciling the data. We need to make sure that the data that was moved from HHS into Passport has everything that was there before. If there anything is missing or if some data is corrupted, we need to fix that before we can get on the full payment plan again. So the update is that the migration has happened, but it's not completed, and the payment process is still paused for all of our CBOs. Okay, those are my updates.
Who wanted it to go to Passport?
That's a great question. It's a great question. Thank you for asking that. The history of, I'm going to talk about the history of DYCD. Because DYCD is a contracting agency, we had built our own systems in the past. We had a system called Comprehensive Computer Management System, I believe. But I don't know when exactly it was decided. I'm sure OMB, Office of Management and Budget, and the Mayor's Office of Contracts had a conversation that we were not included in, and said we really should have a system that covers all the social services agencies. So the Department of Youth and Community Development, Department of Aging, Human Services, Department of Homeless Services, Administration of Children's Services. Those are what the city sees as human resource agencies. So HHS, Human Services, was developed for the human services system. At the same time or a little after, the city started having a conversation about having a system that dealt with just contracting. So the mayor's office of contracting, this password was first developed just for contracting. And then somebody's like, well, since this is an agency-wide system, why don't we include other components such as payments, such as budgeting, and so on and so forth. I don't know who or how, but that system is now developed. But to be honest, DYCD is not quite happy with it because it doesn't quite do, I'm sure most agencies are not happy with it actually. It doesn't quite do all the things that we need to do, especially for reporting to our federal and state oversight agencies. The data that we used to have available to us with the DYCD's own system some of it is not available at the moment. It has to be available, so we're still working with the people who are developing password to make sure that's going to happen. But people way above our heads decided that we should go to a system that included all human services agencies and then to a system that included all city agencies. So we're trying to find a system that works for all city agencies, and I guess that is probably a little bit problematic.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Quick. I do want to credit artists as well as Navita, who, as many of you know, is the CFO for the agency. We have periodic meetings with the Department of State, and so the fiscal team specifically updated our oversight about the same stuff that they're telling me right now. And we asked the Department of State on their own behalf, on behalf of Federal Department of Health and Human Services, to convey what is it that they really want from fiscal audits so that we have this information, and as we're liaising with the city agents, like, as she's very diplomatically said, well, we may not have been some of these early planning conversations, but we talked to our oversight, and this is what they need. It's not just that we're making it up, this is what they need. So those conversations will continue. Just want to credit her for that.
I do think I'm going to go ahead and make a presentation. I believe some of you have a copy of the financial report in your package, and I apologize if you can just follow along with that. Okay. So this report, the data was run as of March 21st, 2024. So it includes the months of July through February, because our providers start submitting their previous month's expenses after the 10th of the following month. So we have data from July through February for city fiscal year 24. Our budget for CSBG programs is $36.1 million. And the CSBG funds are allocated over 3 areas. The bulk of our funding goes to program contracts. We award these funds to CBOs who perform direct services on DYCD's behalf. We have a smaller bucket of money in other contractual services, and the idea is that this bucket of money is spent to enhance the direct services that are provided by our CBOs. And finally, we have a bucket of money for the DYCD PS staff. So most of the staff who are sitting in this room today, at least a portion of their salary will be paid with CSBG funds, some at least 100%. So if we look at the program contracts budget, we have about 8 different program areas that it covers. We have the neighborhood development group, which in itself has between 7 or 8 sub-programs. We have the service movement families. We no longer have a program at HRA, the Human Services Unit. It's come back into DYCD's fold, and that's called the Immigration and Legal Services Programs. We have an adult literacy program, a fatherhood initiative program, adolescent literacy, and rounding it out, the summer youth employment program. Overall, the program contracts budget is more than $28 million. And so if we're thinking of the $36 million as the entire award, $28 million of that goes directly to program contracts. Spending to date for this group of funding is $7.5 million, and that represents 26% of the program contracts budget. And ideally, we would imagine that since we're looking at 8 months of the fiscal year, we're closer to 75%. But I want to reassure you that this is very much how our providers spend and report their spending. It's very slow in the first half of the city fiscal year, and it ramps up towards the end of the year. And we are fully confident we'll close the city fiscal year in the 96 to the 98% range. So when I'm here again in September, this will look very different. You'll notice that our disbursements are higher than our invoice payments. And that's because all DYCD contracts, including the CSBG funded contracts, receive an advance at the start of the city fiscal year. So in July, when the year starts, before they have spent any money, before they have submitted an invoice to us, DYCD gives the provider 25% of their budget. So a provider with a $100,000 budget, July 1st, they receive an electronic transfer of funds of $25,000, for example. And so from July through December, our invoiced amount will be lower than what we've paid, because what we've paid include the advances. Starting in January, our accounts payable team starts to recoup those advances. So the $25,000 advance that the provider received in July, when they submit an invoice in January for $10,000, they wouldn't be paid $10,000 if they paid something less, let's say $5,000. And so over between the period of January through June, we recoup those advances. So come June, our payments and expenses are exactly the same. And so for that reason, we have disbursements of over $16 million versus expenses of $7.5 million. Our other contractual services, the bulk of which is technical assistance, DYCD engages with quite a few professional vendors who provide technical assistance in a variety of areas: case management, financial management, and as I said, the money we spend in the other contractual services enhances the direct services our providers provide on our behalf. We have a budget of $2.4 million of other contractual services, and to date we have spent $172,000. And the main reason that our spending is so low in this area is because we put out a new RFP for technical assistance in city fiscal year 24, and every time, the first year of an RFP, when providers are getting their contracts registered or they're getting stuff up and running, it's even slower than our normal process. So as of now, we have no spending for technical assistance because most of those contracts are not yet registered. And if a contract is not registered, a provider can't submit an invoice for us to pay. So once a contract is registered, and our technical assistance providers are really good at submitting invoices and are much quicker than our direct services providers, we'll also see a flood of invoices coming in to be reimbursed. Personal services. This is another area that we have no expenses for, and that's because within DYCD, we're having a conversation about changing the process in which we're doing that. We're looking at how we can maximize federal and state revenue rather than CTL for PS. We're having conversations with our grantors, not necessarily CSBG, but another federal fund we have, the WIOA, Workforce Investment Funds. We're having internal conversations. We're still doing the process of every 3 months we send out a list of our staff to division heads and say, these staff, you're signing off that they worked in these areas and so on. We're still doing that, but because we have not completed that process as yet, we don't have any expense that we can definitively say this much is CSBG, this much is WIOA, and so on and so forth. We're going to get that done fairly soon. So our spending doesn't look great, but I want to reassure you that we have every intention of continuing to spend as in previous years, which is like a 96 to 98% spending rate. If the next part of this is to compare our spending from the last report to this report, because of all the issues we talked about, passport migration, changes in our cost allocation process, and new technical assistance contracts, we don't have that much spending to report. But compared to the last meeting, our program contracts increased nearly 64%, and our payments for the same program contracts increased 73%. So that is my presentation. I'm happy to answer questions that folks
Donovan Swanson, VP, Brooklyn. Thank you for that. I just, quick question, is it typically standard for us to be in like the 80 range when it comes to program contracts at this time of the year?
Yes,
Okay, got it. That was literally my only question, because we
Yes.
just see three lines that are at 82, 81, and 84%. And we're
yes.
just, they'll be able to continue with programming until the end of the fiscal year with the remaining funds?
One of those is SYP, the SYP program.
Yeah.
That happens in the first 2 months of the city fiscal year. So our expenses for that happens pretty quickly, and we have that information. Is that what you're referencing?
Well, no, I'm referencing adolescent literacy, immigrant services for immigrant families, and then.
Well, are you looking at the disbursements?
Yes.
Okay, yes. So, the disbursements, that includes the invoices they've submitted to us, as well as the advances we've given to them that we have not started to recoup as yet.
Okay.
So that's why their invoices are much lower, but their payments that we've paid them is much higher, because that includes the advances.
Jackie Bell Adams have a question. Could you hear me?
Yes.
Did that answer your question?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Hi, hello?
Hi, Jackie.
Hi. So with the budget, the youth budget, the SYP budget and the other budget, are they separate or is it all together in one pile? So do they separate them?
So I think what you're asking is SYP, I'm gonna answer the question I think you're asking. The SYP budget in DYCD is over $200 million. But
Right.
here, it's $4.8 million. What happens is, SYP is funded with a couple of different funding sources, and CSBG provides a sliver of the overall funding. Most of the funding for SYP is city tax levy. We have a very small workforce investment fund bucket of funds. We have a very small private bucket of funds, and as you can see here, the CSBG bucket of funds. But 99% of the SYP budget is city tax levy.
So that's like it's something different. It's not total different, but it is a little separation.
Yes, there's a separation in terms of, this is the program, and it's funded with these different buckets.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mari Moss. So thank you for this report. This is very in-depth. But the 25% that's provided to organizations prior to, or they get that in advance, it's kind of like an advance. Then they get the rest, the 75%, after they've turned in receipts and you've gotten payback from the federal government, or do you have to wait for the federal government to reimburse you?
That's a great question. So the Office of Management and Budget, which is the mayor's budget shop, gives all city agencies expense authority. What that means is they borrow money or they receive taxes and so on, and they front that to agencies when they're spending, right? So DYCD, you're a provider, you have a contract for $120,000. When we give you that advance at the start of the city fiscal year, it's not federal revenue at that point in time, it's city tax levy. And when we claim to the state, so me and my team submit 4 claims a year to the state, we then submit a claim to the state based on the expenses that the providers send to us. The providers submit invoices to us, we reimburse them. Those same expenses are run in a large data set report, put together in a report, and then we say to the state, hey, could you reimburse us for what we've spent? Yes.
Hi, Nora Moran. Just going back to that passport question, do you have a sense of when providers will be able to start invoicing again? I know that's a tricky one,
I
but.
don't. I spoke with my my manager this afternoon because I knew this question would come up, and they don't as well. The reconciliation is mostly being done by the mayor's office of contracts, not DYCD. They migrate it. They have to check the data, and we're on weekly calls with Mox where we go through the information they're finding, and they sent us the information, say we've migrated it, our team then looks at it and say, hey, this is missing, that's missing, this is not right. And we have weekly meetings where we go through that stuff. Unfortunately, the work has to be done by months to make sure that that's all ready to go. And so it's hard for us to say when that will happen.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to accept the report.
Motion, Jackie.
Motion by Jackie, seconded by Grace, or, yeah. Great. Okay, we're gonna move on to a presentation by Andrew Miller.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for showing up. We love we got a quorum, and I'm glad that Chair Stevens, Representative Lamont is here. Welcome. So over the past year, as you know, you've seen across the agency, Commissioner Howard's goal of one DYCD. As part of this, actually, last month, the Commissioner announced another new chapter in our collective efforts to reach this goal. So I'm the head of Intergovernmental Affairs, Sarah Marks Wade. She's the Director of Intergovernmental Affairs. So actually, the Commission has asked us to actually merge the NAB unit with our unit to form a new Office of Intergovernmental and Public Engagement. So under one roof, we're going to have all the connections with elected officials such as the Controller's Office, members of the City Council, the Public Advocate, the Borough Presidents, the City Council, all 59 community boards, the Interagency Coordinating Council and Youth Services, and the Youth Board, all under one roof. But don't worry, we're still going to work very closely with Mike and his team. Like we actually met today, and we used the word, we're going to be joined at the hip. So I am super excited to work with the team. They've already been engaged in meetings with some elected officials, as well as meetings with City Hall. So they're fast learners, they're energetic, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Great, thank you. We're excited for this change. It seems like it's going to be streamlined, so that's great. Okay, I will entertain a motion to accept the report. And second? Anyone opposed? So moved. Okay, we'll move on to the Commissioner's report.
Don't applaud yet, you don't know who's that.
But applaud at the end, right? Thank you, members and representatives, for attending. As Andrew said, I'm really glad that we've made quorum. I know there are a couple of folks who are facing last-minute emergencies, and we said, take care of your families and do what we got to do. And then we talked to say, oh God, I hope we make quorum anyway. So we made quorum, and that's fantastic. And we wish the members who are not here well. We certainly hope to see them next time. As always, I thank you for your efforts. Their commitment to the CAB and to the agency's important work, and it's my pleasure to deliver the Commissioner's report. So I'll start by picking up where Andrew left off in our internal deliberations and conversations about this transition. I said it feels a little bit like a preview. Some of you met my daughter who came to the last CAB meeting. So like when your daughter's graduating high school, you're like, all right, you're off to a bigger world now, which can always, if you need anything, you come to me. So I feel the way the team that Andrew's putting together at his position is going to strengthen their profile, and I think that's to the betterment of the agency, because it's the whole agency. This is a community action agency for the city of New York, and so the way that they're positioned, the way they're looking to move, really is going to pay dividends for everybody. So again, we will be locked at the hip and making sure that we deliver the information that you need and we work together. So, but I do have some other matters I want to raise as well. NAB convening. So I think I reported on this quite some time ago. We had a grand plan that we were initially going to execute in June of 2020, and then around March of 2020, the whole city and the world shut down for a while, so that got shelved until last June. And last year was the first time in this room actually that we did the first ever NAB convening, and I thought that went wonderfully well, where we had representatives of each of the NABs come together, and some of them is really for the first time. So it operated wonderfully. It operated in parallel fashion. but some of them may have felt they operated in silos. So we want to routinize this. And so this May will be the second annual time that we've brought folks from across the city, that we will bring folks from across the city together. So the convening will feature a discussion about volunteerism, recognition of NAB members, and opportunities to network. And I'm really excited that one of the special guests that we have coming to this convening is a woman named Pat Standish. And you wouldn't know this, but in many of the statewide meetings that I attend, Pat Standish is known around the state for training and engaging volunteers. So we had an opportunity right before the pandemic for Pat to meet with Anita and her entire team. So Anita and her team was excited that we had an opportunity to bring Pat in. So we're gonna figure out, it's either gonna be pre-recorded or virtual, because Pat has some issues where she may not be able to travel to New York City, but we're still gonna get her in front of the NAB members for that. The tracks and the across. So, you know, DYCD is awash an acronym, so I have to remind people sometimes. Every 3 years, we have this triennial review for accountability and compliance with standards. That's the tracks. And so the tracks was conducted in September of last year, and we recently received back our score. It is a rather lengthy instrument where DYCD has to demonstrate, as the community action agency for the city of New York, that we adhere to numerous national organizational standards. There are also several indicators of excellence. So we were able to demonstrate meeting 41 of the 48 standards for public community action agencies and 122 of 137 indicators of excellence. That's actually very good, although we always strive to do 100% on both fronts. So where we lost, well, the way my notes read is the way we lost points. I didn't lose points, I'm gonna put it that way, but some of the things we haven't yet been able to demonstrate is because the agency hasn't yet updated its strategic plan. So the last strategic plan was presented to this body, and members who've been here for a while may recall it was a 5-year plan that covered the period from 2016 to 2021. So while in many respects the CSBG portfolio continues to operate in accordance with that plan, technically the plan names Commissioner Chan, so there's no utility in our formally carrying that plan forward. The agency has an internal plan, strategy rather, to update that plan, but we haven't finished updating that plan, so we knew there was no way we were going to meet several of those standards. We're giving a formal response to the state tomorrow, and this is one of the things that we're going to footnote and let them know the new timetable. So we expect to present after the June CAB meeting. So what's the first meeting after that? September? I think that's when we'll have a new strategic plan to present to the Community Action Board. The other thing that we still have yet to demonstrate, we've talked about the last community needs assessment at length that was conducted in 2022. We had some internal challenges, which I reported at the last meeting. I'm anticipating that we'll have a presentation for the board at the June meeting. And once we have then documentation of that, not only will you receive it, but in turn we'll be able to share that we had that meeting with the state. And so I think that will greatly bring us into compliance. Most of the indicators relate to those two things. One minor one, there were 2 CAB members that needed to update their conflict of interest forms. I'm not naming names right now, but if you need to pull anybody aside before the meeting is over, let's make sure we get that, because fantastic. Okay, so that will be part of our follow-up to the state tomorrow. On March 21st, Congress released the final agreed upon appropriation bills. And for DYC's core program, there'll be no change to the FY24 amounts. CSBG funding, $770 million after set aside, which is the same as it was in FY23. And if you watch the drama that happens in DC, you know that we finally got that continuing resolution through the end of the federal fiscal year. So we're always happy that we don't have to harass or send micro update memos to our providers about how they can spend and continue to abide by the 200% of federal poverty, which they're allowed to use. So they're allowed to use it for the rest of the year. I want to talk briefly about the NDA initiative. So it's the Neighborhood Development Areas Initiative. A lot of the CSBG portfolio, as you know, is targeted in neighborhoods with the highest incidence of poverty. And I had previously reported that after 3 rounds of the RFP, we still had 5 competitions where we didn't have a suitable proposer to make an award. So we have gone under every rock and every bush and every tree, and we've enlisted and talked to our provider network broadly, such that I'm now proud to be able to share that we have secured providers for the following program areas and NDAs: Immigrant Services application assistance in Staten Island 1, as well as Brooklyn 10, which is Dyker Heights and Bay Ridge, and Brooklyn 3, which is Bedford and Stuyvesant Heights, and Immigrant Services, ESOL Civics, Manhattan 12, which is Inwood and Washington Heights, and Queens 9, which is Richmond Hill and Ozone Park. So I want to credit my team, as well as legal, fiscal, and procurement for our steadfastness. But mostly I want to acknowledge that it was under the direction and leadership of the commissioners, like, you better find appropriate people that responded to those highest indicated needs of the community. So it was a collective effort that we're finally able to get that done. The literacy RFP. Some of you have been following that very closely. So you know the literacy RFP, which includes adult literacy and adolescent literacy, was released. There were 4 addenda to that RFP. The deadline is tomorrow. We don't anticipate any more addenda between today and tomorrow. So we're looking forward to a robust set of proposals having been submitted, and we will continue to make ourselves available to the community as that goes. But you know, we've heard amply from the community, and that's really what it's about, and we look forward to responding to that. The next step, credit to Ron and his team, we will need numerous evaluators to read what we anticipate is going to be a very high volume of proposals. So most of my entire division will be reading proposals, and we'll probably still have to appeal to other divisions, but we're a contracting agency. This is what we're used to doing, so we will continue to do it. Other DYCD programs. Applications are available for the 2024 season of Summer Night Lights, a free structured opportunity for youth between the ages of 12 and 18 to play in a baseball or co-ed softball league. Games will be hosted at Elson Jean Howard Field in the Bronx, the site of the original Yankee Stadium, every Tuesday and Wednesday evening. That's pretty cool, from 4 to 9 p.m., beginning July 9th through the end of August. Summer Night Lights is a partnership of DYCD, the New York Yankees, the New York City Police Department, NYPD Blue Chips, the city's Department of Parks and Rec, and Scan Harbor. And through this collective effort, Summer Night Lights provides young people with an outlet for recreation, social responsibility, and healthy competition. Summer Rising applications closed this past Monday with more than 139,000 applications submitted, which is on pace with last year's first round. The portal will reopen in April for any available seats. Finally, Summer Youth Employment Program. We have hit an all-time application high, and you should acknowledge yourselves because you've consistently asked about and helped raise the lift and awareness of SYIP with 181,676 applications submitted.
Say it again.
181,600, so you can clap, 181,676 applications submitted, and we expect the number to increase slightly as special initiatives providers enroll qualified youth. Currently, more than 30,000 participants are already enrolled, including 5,000 night shift youth. So that number will tick up as we finish, recruiting the rest of the young people. But it's really a banner year, and I'm thankful that we're able to participate across the agency for that. With that, that concludes the commissioner's report.
Question, Jackie Rowe Adams.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi. So what are the ages? You didn't say the ages.
For SYP?
For the Saturday Delights.
I like Saturday Delights, that sounds cool. SYP is 14 to 24, Saturday, hold on a second, I thought I had it. Summer Night Lights is 12 to 18.
Oh, so 12 to 8, oh, okay, 12 to 18, okay.
I'm really down. So Don Swanson, Brooklyn Borough Hall. I know it was mentioned during the hearing that you guys are currently looking for an entity to assess the effectiveness of Saturday Night Lights. Has there been any progress with that?
I don't have any information that I can apprise the CAB about at this time, but when I do, I'll certainly include it in the next report.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Hi, Rhonda Joseph. Do we have any perspective on how many people are going to be able to be placed in SYP? Like if there's sites for them, that kind of thing?
I guess there's two answers to that question. I'm anticipating total placements will hover around 100,000. That's the was the slot level last year. And I understood your question to ask about work sites. I think there's still opportunity, so anyone in the cab, anyone in your larger network, if you know of work sites, please communicate that to our team, and we will let Workforce Connect know and handhold and help increase the array of work site opportunities for those youth. Not too late.
There's a form on the website. The DYCD
All right, so Anita said there's a form, we can pass the link to that form along, but, you know, I don't speak for their bandwidth, but I don't mind based on prior anecdotal conversations, if you know folks who can do numerous placements, you know, we'll ask that team to check in with them, make sure that they fill that form correctly and all that good stuff.
Can you remind us of the benefits of the work site, because again, people getting the opportunity from the business owners point of view?
Thank you. For the record, did you get the question? A work site can benefit as a stakeholder in the community by helping develop the workforce for tomorrow and understand that DYC is paying the wages for that youth. And so I think anecdotally a number of employers will say it has benefited them both in the short term because they've gotten the free labor, but hopefully some of them would also say it's benefited in the long term because those persons have gone on later on to sort of take over ownership and manage programs or become leaders elsewhere in the city. Yes.
Questions? Please Baglio. The work sites themselves, I guess business owners, does it have to be certain businesses or any business?
No, thank you for the question. I was serious in response to Ronnie's question of there being an open invitation. You know, when, I don't want to editorialize too long, but I think when the city periodically looks up and does central reports about what are the career paths of the 21st century, we can see there's a lot of sectors and industries, and we want to have young people have opportunities early on to try to get connected to those fields. So I think that that's important. But since I have the mic, I'll also say one of the CSBG programs that we just started, and I've reported on previously, economic development program. And so there's not going to be a huge lift there, but that's another area where when you're working with mom and pop and smaller operations, if they have the capacity even to take on, you know, 1 or 2 interns that have the interest to do it, and to the earlier question, they want to invest in some young, so it's really, what's that old phrase about 1,000 flowers? Like, I think the greater the array of practical work opportunities, the better young people will be suited, because the things that actually light them up are the things that they end up getting to do. So I would rather we continue to cast the net widely.
Employer engagement, division with DYCD, early best, whatever happens, work site. So, they have to protect children, so they will get, you know, it's not,
But anybody can apply, and then they get vetted, and then
fill the application, and you get a call, and you get interviewed, and, you know, they all fit, they presented to our strategic partnerships committee. So they really take their time, and but they always need work sites. So anybody,
Are there other questions?
Thank you so much. So I will, yes, I'll entertain a motion to accept the commissioner's report.
Motion to accept Donovan Swanson.
Second? Great. Anyone opposed? Okay, so moved. So we are going to move on to the committee reports. The executive committee met on March 21st. We had a number of presentations from each of the committees. And I think I will turn over to Anita to report on the governance committee meeting.
about a hand for Ariel going in. On the
fly, because that was this morning that we found out. Okay, the governance committee met on Wednesday, March 20th. And they talked about vacancies on the CAB. The private sector, St. Francis College was removed because they stopped attending meetings. We have an opening for a private sector entity, could be profit, nonprofit. They just have to want to help with this program, with CSBG program. Low income sector, currently there are 10 vacancies. Region 14, although it has an election in progress, it just didn't finish by today. So we should have a new member for Region 14, which is Brooklyn, 11, 13, and 15, by next, the June meeting. So that's good. We're looking for candidates in the other 9 regions. We're also looking for a NAP chairperson representative for Bronx, Queens, and a NAP chairperson representative for Brooklyn. Staff is working to find candidates in all of them by the June 13th CAB meeting. 3 members were excused from the last meeting, and 5 members were absent. Warning letters went out to those members who are in jeopardy of being removed from the board. Okay, action item, we had the New York State open meetings law that says we need to have meetings in person. We thought it needed to go into the CAB bylaws, but according to our legal department, it does not, so you're not gonna have that. Action item 2 is actually member removal for absenteeism. And this we have to vote on because you have to vote on. Because in the bylaws it says the CAB in full must vote to remove these members. These members have been, they haven't been here, they haven't been reachable. We've tried numerous times to get information from them, are you still on the board, do you still want to be on the board or anything, but there has been no response. So the committee decided to bring that to the CAB in full, so you all will vote on it, and what that will do is open, one of them is Region 2, Cynthia Cox, and Region 5, Justin Westbrook, Lowry, which are both regions are in the Bronx. And then the meeting after that was adjourned, after they voted on bringing it to the CAB. So that's the report. We need to have a vote.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so first we'll entertain a vote on action item 1, which is the removal for absenteeism. Anyone want to approve?
We'll make the motion.
Motion to vote.
Motion to remove Region 2 and the possibly 4.
Motion to accept.
Hold on, I'm so sorry, just for clarity,
Mhm.
Anita, you just said that it's not necessary for it to be reflected in the bylaws. So are we voting
No.
on action item 1 or are we?
No, not on 1.
Okay, so just
On
on
1,
2.
just on 2.
Just because that's what was read, so I wanna make
Yeah.
sure.
No, what, on 1, what the legal department said, we don't
Got it.
have to.
Actually, okay.
Yeah, I think, sorry, I meant vote number 1 would be on that, and then
Oh.
accepting committee minutes, but I understand, yes, that was confusing. Okay, so we will vote on absenteeism. Motion to accept.
Motion to,
Accept the removal.
To accept the removal.
motion to accept the removal.
Second. Anyone opposed? Okay, so moved. And now I will entertain a motion to accept the governance committee report.
So moved, Jackie Rowe Adams.
Great. Anyone opposed? Okay, so moved.
What's the first, who made the motion?
Okay. So now we're going to move on to the program committee, and I will report on that. So we met on March 13th. We had a presentation by the NDA about the NDA Safety Awareness and Crime Prevention Program, specifically the Mashlu Montefiore Community Center presented on this new initiative. Again, the contract is new, so they're still kind of in the process of getting it off the ground. They're working on building a council of community residents. They're working on building the structure, starting to network and recruit clients, going to community board meetings, churches, synagogues, really getting out into the community to make sure that they have people who are going to be running the program. They are in NDA Bronx 7, so all the members have to reside in that NDA. It seems like from our discussion, there is a lot of interest in terms of expansion of this program. Obviously, the program is still new, so we're waiting to see the effectiveness and what works and what doesn't. So once that is, once time goes on and we see some of that, it may be possible potentially to advocate for funding to expand the program. They have had monthly meetings for the council. They've also been involving teens in the process. And we're looking forward to seeing how this program gets off the ground. No old or new business, and we adjourned at 6:32. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to accept the program committee meeting report.
Motion to accept Donovan Swanson.
Donovan, great. Second? Great. Anyone opposed? Okay, so moved. And now I will pass it on to Susie to do the strategic partnerships report.
Sure. Is that okay? Yeah.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening. So as Ariel said, I'm Susie Tannenbaum. I'm Borough President Richard's representative on the Community Action Board. I actually see that my colleague Ludi Shaw, who is the alternative rep on the CAB, is on the Zoom, so that's really nice. I am third vice chair, so I chair the Strategic Partnerships Committee, and we had a meeting on March 14th. And we had an excellent presentation given by Dr. Khadija Diallo, who is the Director of Neighborhood Strategies in the DYCD Strategic Partnerships Division. So she talked about different programs, and I just want to highlight two of them. One component of DYCD Strategic Partnerships is called Special Initiatives and Events. And they have this amazing program called Step It Up NYC, Stop the Violence Campaign. And they invite youth between the ages of 10 and 21 to enter a dance competition. And the youth use performance skills to raise awareness about issues impacting their communities. So that was really, really interesting. And then the other component that she told us about was, forgive me, I'm trying to find this, community engagement, listening, sharing, and connecting events. So they do community resource fairs and youth town halls and focus groups on mental health services and police and youth relations. But what really stood out was that this community engagement component works closely with the NYC Gun Violence Prevention Task Force And their goal is to reduce gun violence around the city. And when an incident does occur, the task force steps in to provide services and resources to everyone in the community who's been impacted by the incident. So this was all really valuable information. And you can read more about it by going to Discover DYCD on the DYCD, that's the DYCD website. After that, we talked about NAB membership and recruitment. Susan Patterson, director of the NAB-CAB Liaison Unit, gave us an update, and here are the numbers currently. So DYCD has 192 filled seats and 50 vacancies, and elected officials have 68 filled seats and 178 vacancies. Actually, that was as of March 14th. Hopefully there's been some movement because this team is so active in their recruitment. We had a very robust conversation. Donovan Swanson, who always is on point, from my colleague in the Brooklyn Borough President's Office, pointed out that all of the Borough President's offices just completed the interview process for community boards. And I was totally aligned with him. This is the time for interviewees, particularly those who did not get accepted for whatever reason. Maybe there was a limited number of openings on the community boards, to be encouraged to apply on their NABs if they live within the neighborhood development area. So we had a really productive conversation around that. And then we learned about NAB outreach and all the important work that they are doing. There was no old business, no new business, and we adjourned at, I didn't say when we began. We began at 5:04 on March 14th, we adjourned at 5:59. And that's my report. And hopefully more of you will come to these committee meetings because we really appreciate your participation, and you can attend on Zoom, so it can't be easier. Thanks.
So I will entertain a motion to accept the strategic partnerships report.
Jackie Go Adams.
Jackie seconded. Anyone opposed? And so moved. Okay, so now we are going to move on to the presentation section. We're going to hear from Denise Williams about the DYCD mission statement, vision statement, equity statement, and guiding principles.
So I am virtual, and I'm hopeful this is going to work. Computers are nice things, but they don't always work for me. We shall see. So my name is Denise Williams. I am Deputy Commissioner for Planning, Program Integration, and Evaluation here at DYCD. Basically means my team leads analytics and reporting. We lead all of the RFP development. We lead the evaluation of DYCD program models. And until recently, we were over the effort to do the equity. We helped develop the equity statement and have really been leading the equity investment approach. So I'm gonna just present to you, some of you have been on the board, you know this, but I was really excited to follow Susan because Susan's report kind of highlighted a lot of ways in which this commissioner is reinforcing, not changing. So Mike mentioned we're gonna do strategic planning, but I am pretty sure the mission and vision will be consistent. It will be the strategy. So I guess I am to share my screen. I will hope I get this right. you able to see? Because I can only see on my end.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So thank you for having me. Just a reminder, presenting to some and reminding others. So DYCD exists. Really, our whole point is not just contracting and giving away money, but to work in partnership with local organizations to help New Yorkers and our communities to develop, grow, and thrive. We believe in partnerships. Communities aren't empty vessels. They have talents and skills, and we come alongside through money, through partnerships, through events like the ones you heard about from Khadijah. By the way, Step It Up is one of my favorites. I never miss it. So if you have the opportunity, you should definitely come, especially if it's going to be at the Apollo again this year. So this is our vision statement. So what is our work? What is our mission? We invest in community-based organizations and try to alleviate the effects of poverty and really, again, invest in New Yorkers to provide opportunities for them to flourish. And individual New Yorkers flourish, families flourish, we all know communities flourish. Here's an array of our programs, and I will stop here and say and give credit to community development or community action, because it was through our last strategic planning and under the leadership of Sandy Gutierrez, where DYCD put poverty and addressing poverty at the center of its mission. Some of you may recall that, yes, poverty was something that community development focused on, but it wasn't really embedded throughout DYCD as its core function, mission, and vision. And so that was transformative for the agency, and frankly, has been foundational to some of the work that the commissioner has us doing right now. One of the things I wanted to highlight on here, and you heard a little bit about it from Susan, she mentioned the Gun Violence Prevention Task Force. Even beyond the task force, DYCD took over the Office of Neighborhood Safety from the Mass Office of Criminal Justice. Why was that important? A, it meant that beyond community development, it was an area where we're helping adults. It wasn't going to just be community development, but we were going to be helping adults through these programs, which is often referred to as the crisis management system. That's A. B, we weren't going to just be working upstream, meaning trying to prevent young people from going off track, but also helping New Yorkers who've had some involvement or some challenges with the criminal justice system get back on track. And I'm personally very excited about that, particularly in neighborhoods where there's been generational poverty. A lot of that has to do with some connection to the criminal justice system that limits opportunities for, frankly, voting, as we all know, education, and some job opportunities. And so it was really a great day, as far as I'm concerned, when we got the Office of Neighborhood Safety, which is related to the work that Susan mentioned of the Gun Violence Prevention Task Force. And I wanted to raise up our guiding principles and not to read them. I hate when people present decks and read what's on them. Just want to highlight a couple of them. Opportunities for all. What we meant by that and the language behind that is prioritizing investments to help eliminate disparate impact in underserved communities. As a Black woman in New York, you know, disparate impact has a lot to do with health impact. No matter what your income is, as a Black woman in New York, you have disparate health impacts, which has a lot to do with racism that's embedded in our healthcare system. And one of my favorite folks is Mary Bassett, who writes a lot about that and used to be our health commissioner. So for our commissioner, it's not just about whether it's disparate impact because of funding, it could be disparate impact because of race, it could be disparate impact because of disabilities. So he's helping us think about and implement new strategies around opportunities for all. I wanted to highlight a couple of others. One is strategic relationships, and the other is stewardship and how we invest our money. Strategic relationships, he's created the Office of Strategic Partnerships, which is where Dr. Diallo is part and is a leader as someone who's overseeing neighborhood strategies. Some of you may know we've opened offices in some of our cornerstones that DYCD staff are scheduled and staffed pretty frequently. Why? He wants us to be more in communities and not just in communities through our CBO networks, but through the 500 or so staff that DYCD has. So it's not just Dr. Diallo, it's staff across the agency who are often in these neighborhoods. We have borough managers who are often in these neighborhoods. Andrew talked some about what's going on. We go to all the mayor's town halls. Thankfully, I don't have to, but Andrew is at every single one. And through that strategic partnerships group, we are staffed there. We hear from the community. We come back and make changes based on that feedback. And those are all new strategies that have come from our commissioner. So I would say to you that when you see the new plan that comes out, I don't imagine there will be any change in the mission, vision, or guiding principles. What you will see is amplified strategies. He's very creative, innovative, and pretty fearless. So amplified strategies that DYCD will be taking on to address and really align us to have some impact in these areas. We have an equity statement that actually we developed a few years ago. The commissioner has hired an associate commissioner for DEI. She all knows diversity, equity, and inclusion. And she is working and leading the effort for us to walk the talk of the statement. So not just to have the statement, but to align our funding with the statement, align our staffing and the diversity of our staff with the statement, to align the payment structure or salary structure with the statement. She just actually did a presentation for my staff around how do we make these presentations more kind of equitable for those who, like I should have asked, and actually when we started the meeting, we should have asked, did anybody need closed caption, for example? We should ask lots of things to make our presentations to the community more accessible for people who learn differently or who have vision challenges, hearing challenges, and she's training us to be better at that, not just internal staff, but our providers as well. And one of the things I'm most excited about is that we are working on implementing an equity funding formula, which is based on 70% poverty. Again, I want to highlight how this is really coming from the leadership of the CAB and Dr. Gutierrez and Bobbitt and the planning we did many years ago. But it's based on 70% poverty and 30% having to do with the issue that the program area is addressing. So that we've started that with the literacy RFP, and the next one up that you'll see will be Compass. And those are all our after school programs. So our investments will look at youth in high poverty NTAs, and then the 30% will be based on schools with chronic absenteeism. So we are really beginning to walk the talk, and I'm personally very excited about that. So I will stop there and stop sharing and answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Anyone have questions?
Sorry.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. My name is Lamont Caroline. I'm Chief of Staff to Councilmember Althea Stevens, who's the Chair of the Children and Youth Services Committee. A couple questions I have for you. Thank you for your presentation, Deputy Commissioner. I think we talk about D&I, and I think there's a couple of points that I want to just point out here that I'd love your context on. One is when we're talking about D&I, just making sure that there's equitable distribution of funds and just how we're making sure we're considering programs. We also want to talk about our providers, right? And not just the people that we're serving. And our providers, we're hearing alarming reports about just how providers aren't being paid on time. And we're seeing reports where providers are being directed to take out loans, right? And have to lay off staff because they're not receiving funds that are due that were part of the funding process from city council and other entities. And I just want to talk to you about that and just see how are we making sure that providers are being paid on time? I know your administration is pretty new, but in this administration and also going forward, how are we making sure they're being paid on time so they don't have to lay off staff?
So I can address what DYCD has been doing, and I will tell you that timely payment and support of our nonprofit providers is a priority for this commissioner. So we had a consulting firm come in and do an analysis of our fiscal infrastructure, our payment infrastructure. We have reorganized that team, and I'm sure Navita would be happy to come and talk to you about that. But we have reorganized that team. We have reorganized how we communicate. You know this if you're part of the council members team. We have worked with the council, who's now looking at 3-year awards where possible, so we don't have to go through this annual awards with the discretionary providers, especially if there are things that we know are gonna happen consistently, like the food pantries, for example. If it's going to keep happening, why do we need to have 1-year grants or contracts? So we're looking at what we're doing, what we can do as DYCD to streamline our processes. And we're doing a lot, and we can both tell you what the recommendations were. I can't tell you off the top of my head, but also, report to you where we are in implementing those recommendations. And then the other thing, and Artis alluded to this, part of this has to do with us, and part of this has to do with agencies that aren't us, which is the mayor's office of contracts as well, right? And so what did she just say? We had to put a hold on payments. That wasn't a DYCD decision. I'm a little more hopeful about when this is done, what it will mean in a positive way for both city agencies and CBOs. I'm not, and I'm a Virgo, so it's unusual that I'm a positive one in this. But I'm not as down on this process as Artis is. I think it will be better in the long run, but as you know, anyone who's managed change, when you're in the middle, it's the worst part, right? You're neither at the beginning and you're neither at the end where you can see the benefits. In the middle, you just feel like you're drowning. And so I do think it will get better, but part of this also is that MOX has to get better. So I commit to you, we can present to you if that's something that the CAB wants, and have Navita talk a little bit about the changes that we've made.
Thank you for your response. I'm going to follow up here. I just got to be honest. I was sitting in a room with providers yesterday, and I'll tell you, the council member and I, we were in room with people who pay folks who service our young people, and folks have had to lay people off. So I hear you. You're Virgo. I get it. I understand it. But to folks who are working with their young people and they can't work with them anymore because there's no money, right? That's a detriment to our young people. So I just I get it. If the left hand isn't talking to the right, that doesn't matter to our folks who are in desperate need of services. I'll also just say this, I think, and this is an opportunity, right? This isn't a basking session, but it's an opportunity, one, to raise awareness that this is happening, and a lot of it is not being discussed in the media. But the other part about this is just we have to look at and think about how are we going to service our young people? How are we going to take care of the obligations that we have as a city, right? Because we talk about violence and we talk about this and then the third in the city. Right now, the thing that's on fire right now is our young people. And we can't let them be left behind. I'll say this, Deputy Chancellor, and thank you for your candid statements. I appreciate it. It doesn't go unnoticed. How can we make sure that we are, the left hand is talking to the right? And so you talk about other agencies, I get it, you're only in control, right? But there's so much, same thing with you, Deputy Commissioner. But how do we make sure that the administrations, right, agencies are talking to each other? Because we can push blame off to other agencies, but at the end of the day, our people are suffering. How do we make sure that it doesn't happen?
So I'm gonna say, and he's not here, and I appreciate the promotion to deputy chancellor, I kinda like that. But let me say on behalf of the commissioner, I am serious, one of his top 4 priorities is about solving this payment issue. And it's not just about the young people, although they are priority, but if you heard the mayor when he announced the COLAs for the human service sector, he started out by telling a story about a lot of the folks doing this work look like his mom, right? A lot of the folks who work in the field are women of color. So if you want to have an equity agenda, not just at DYCD, but as you know, the city passed charters around equity. We have an office of equity and anti-racism. This issue of how are we paying the folks who are working in the nonprofits resonates with the mayor, the first deputy mayor, the deputy mayor for strategic initiatives, and they're all looking to hold the different agencies accountable. So this isn't pressure just coming from the nonprofit community, but it is an accountability, I don't know what you want to call it, metric that the mayor has for his deputy mayors and for the administration's commissioners, like our very commissioners. So, all I can tell you is I'm working on it. We're working on it, and I'm not gonna say it is better. I've been with the city 20 years almost, and I wish it was solved. I wish it was solved, but I will tell you we're working on it. And I'm not gonna say get stuff done, because I kind of hate that statement, but I am working on it. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
Another question.
Hi, I'm Mari Moss. This was excellent. Again, I gotta say kudos to you and your entire team for taking on this kind of task, job or not. I mean, it's a major thing to do. So when you say 70% poverty and 30% focusing on the issues, have you been able to identify and prioritize the communities? I mean, in order to make this manageable, you have to identify, but then you also have to prioritize the communities that are going to be receiving this kind of assistance. Have you been able to do that? And what is the best practice approach that you've seen to be able to really make this effective?
So I'm gonna direct you, I don't know if you all have seen the literacy request for proposal and the addendum. We go into a lot of detail about that. We also created a blog, which was a video blog explaining our equity formula, that the 70% is about poverty, and it has been, our analysis was based on the American Census data, and what we have been trying to figure out since then is how to look at where the shelters are for our new community members. I hate calling them asylum seekers, migrants. They're our new neighbors, where they are landing in the shelter system, because that is not factored into the 5 years of data, census data. The 30% is based on the request for proposal. So for literacy, it might be ESOL. It could be folks who said they speak English less than well, right? That's not going to be the same for after school, right? After school, we're looking at chronic absenteeism. Those of you, and I'm sorry, I didn't catch the gentleman's name who was doing the shout out to youth workers. A lot of young people come to school for after school. A lot of young people get engagement and connection through after school and through young adults who look like them, who know their name, and are greeting them in after school. So in this case, it was youth in poverty was the data we were looking at. And then in secondarily, schools that would have chronic absenteeism. But I encourage you to go on, I think it should, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, hoping it's on the DYCD website. I know the blog is, and I would assume of the RFP and the 4 addenda are as well. And if not, Mike and team can make sure you have it.
There's another question on this side. She speaks Spanish, and I will do my best to translate.
Muy buenas noches a todos ustedes. Quiero felicitarla a nuestra compañera. Realmente un buen trabajo y me uno a ella y a todos ustedes. Mi nombre es Elsa Samaniego. Soy vicepresidenta del Distrito 7 de Brooklyn.
Her name is Elsa Samaniego, and she's representing District 7 in Brooklyn. And she wanted to congratulate you on the great work that you're doing, and she joins you on the great work that you're doing.
Vengo más que nada a decirle de que como vicepresidenta y a la vez también como líder de mi comunidad y como activista de la comunidad, estamos empoderando a nuestra comunidad, tanto a las mujeres y tanto a los varones con esta pandemia que ha pasado, ¿no? Ha sido una sorpresa y estamos luchando para esta salud mental y también la salud emocional.
She's saying that as a vice president, she is advocating in the community. ¿Cómo fue que usted dijo? Repítame otra vez lo que usted dijo. She's empowering the women and the men in reference of this pandemic that we went through. For the people not to be afraid or to panic. So they have good mental health. So she's saying that it's just working with the community to heal the community with acupuncture.
En la organización de MANI, es una organización nueva, estamos apoyando a la comunidad, sanando en comunidad con la terapia de acupuntura.
So basically, she's from the organization MANI, and they're helping the community with their mental health with acupuncture in the community.
Asimismo, también nos estamos apoyando a todas las personas que realmente necesitan sacar su ID de Nueva York, porque nuestra comunidad desconoce del ID de Nueva York, ya que es importante aquí en nuestro estado el ID de Nueva York y también algunos programas que está dando la ciudad, como el MetroCard para las personas que han perdido sus familias o han perdido su trabajo.
She's also saying that they're also supporting the people to, I'm thinking that is the migrants to get the New York ID and all of the services that New York is providing.
Y también estamos refiriendo a todas las personas que están llegando a la iglesia donde nosotros estamos comunicándonos para el asilo político. Entonces tenemos bastante trabajo, a lo menos de mi parte estoy trabajando bastante con toda nuestra comunidad.
They're also, referring the people to their church and also for political asylum. And, ¿cómo fue lo otro que usted dijo?
El asilo político para los
Asilo político for the people, yes, the asylum, political asylum for the people that are coming into the state.
No me estoy saliendo del trabajo, como decimos a veces. Estamos haciendo bastante en unión con toda la comunidad, también con la iglesia, que es el pastor Ruiz, y también con algunas organizaciones que nos estamos comunicando en el bienestar de la salud mental y emocional, y también en la salud de sus alimentos, ¿no? Las despensas de alimentos que estamos coordinando para que ellos puedan también alimentarse.
So they helping, perdónenme. Repítame otra vez. Okay, no sé, they're not coming out of the, they're helping with the community.
Is there a question?
Ella quiere saber si usted tiene alguna pregunta o solo un comentario. Solamente estoy como vicepresidenta, estoy aquí para felicitarles a todos que estamos presentes aquí. Y no hay ninguna pregunta, sino al contrario, colaborando mis palabras, cómo estamos trabajando con nuestra comunidad.
So basically, she doesn't have a question. She just wants to let everyone know that she's here in support, that she's working with the community, and she also wanted to congratulate you for the work that you guys are doing. Gracias, gracias. And representing as a vice president.
She's also a member of Brooklyn 7.
That's what she said. She's on Brooklyn 7. And I know there was another one there.
This is gonna be
We're already.
our last.
So I don't, Grace Lavaglio, I don't have a question, I just have a suggestion, as far as, Ms. Williams. The problem you have of getting people together, the community boards are required to have a district services cabinet meetings. I believe it's once a month or quarterly, I'm not sure. It's monthly, right? So, since community boards have to do it, why not try something like that to get the heads of the different departments so that everybody's accountable and everybody could be on the same page and be up to date every month? Just a suggestion.
Are you referring to contracting? Is that what you're talking about, ma'am?
Well, you said before that the right hand doesn't talk to the left hand. People don't talk to each other,
We're doing
so.
that within DYCD, so you can imagine, there's lots of hands, there's legal,
Right.
fiscal, the procurement office, so we do that, we are doing that internally. What I was also referring to is, we can do that internally and then we hand it off, right? There's the city's law department, there's the mayor's office of contract services.
Right.
So the commissioner has the authority and has mandated that we meet that way. And he's focused on one DYCD and breaking down silos, but it's a little hard when he's not in charge of other agencies who's involved. So
Right.
yes, and I agree,
Right.
and we're doing the part we can control.
Okay, right, I get it, there's a lot of different people from different areas, private or just not within DYCD. But it's just a conversation maybe to have with the mayor to make that happen, so this way everybody's on the same page at the same time, and you don't have all the discrepancies, and it may streamline it better as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I will entertain a motion to accept the presentation by Denise Williams. Great. Second? Great. Anyone opposed? So moved. Okay, so old business. Oh, yes. Okay, we're gonna recognize Lamont Carolina as the Chief of Staff for Councilmember Althea Stevens. Thank you for joining us. This is his first meeting. It's a very robust meeting for the first one. Okay, so now old business. Quorum reminder, we did great today. As we all know, meetings in person. Thank you all for coming and making sure that we got quorum. New business.
The whistleblower local 33 is in the board packet. We're required by the state to give it to the CAB every year. So we're just making sure we
And the next.
I'm so sorry, really quickly, just back to old business. I know we discussed making sure there was a formal process for an absent, if someone from medical, has that been figured out? Is that formally out for folks? Just going back to, again, quorum, we talked about it when we were struggling with quorum, making sure that when we achieve it, we're able to put in the vote, but if someone is medically gotta be absent, but allowing that to count, right, like, has that process been formalized? Is that out? Yes. Okay, I'm just making, because that is something that we still wanna make sure, we're talking about quorum, but that is a caveat within quorum.
So in the June meeting, you can bring it up with chairman.
Got it, okay. Okay.
That's a perfect transition. Our next meeting will be Thursday, June 13th.
That's actually a holiday for, so what do you do when?
Holiday is on.
Yeah.
Oh, Shavuot is on the 13th. Okay, that might be an issue. June 13th. We will discuss that and definitely take that into account. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion to adjourn, Jonathan Watson.
Second? Great. Anyone opposed? So moved. Okay, we are done. Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Hi, Anita.
On my desk, so we don't.